Hey, what's up, guys? Jag from Jaggy Sports. First of all, I want to say thank you for every 200 of you guys that's subscribed. I got 200 followers. Awesome. Let's keep it rolling. Remember, hit that subscribe button. Also, hit that like button and hit that freaking notification button so you're going to get this content whenever I post. So, once again, thank you to all the 200 followers, 200 subscribers that subscribe to my stuff. And again, let's keep it rolling. Thank you very much. Now, crazy day in the NBA, also crazy weekend. Now, on Friday, I reported that the 76ers are going to be, expected to pursue James Harden in a trade with the Brooklyn Nets for Ben Simmons. You know, it was a legit source. Shams reported it, and obviously I fell off my chair when I heard that, when I read that, and I got straight to shooting this video, or the Friday's video. And it was all good to go. I fully expected something to happen, but last night I did not see this coming. Now, I don't know if this is a legit, a hoax or something, or a smoke signal or something. I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, it's weird to me. So Steve Nash, the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, on yesterday, basically when he was asked about a question about James Harden and the trade and whatnot, and he goes, "No, we're not trading him." So that just kind of threw me off. But then again, that could be a distraction. You know what I mean? That could be like, okay, no, we're not doing it, and for Daryl Morey to up the ante, and I don't know what's going to happen there, but check it out.
Is our next stop. The Nuggets and the Nets last night. Brooklyn coming in off 7 consecutive losses, and no James Harden last night. He was sitting out with a hamstring. First quarter, that's Nikola Jokic. That's not a good pass. That's Patty Mills to Kyrie for a 3, and the Nets are in it. Now we got Jokic on the other end, laying it up and good. He had 27 and 12 and 10, the traditional Jokic triple-double. Now, off a Nets miss, we're swinging it around. That's Kyrie on the corner. He had 27. Nets a 5-point lead. We're still in the second. Super high scoring. Look at Kyrie splitting the defense. Teams would combine for 151 points in the first half, most of any game in the NBA this year. Third quarter, Jokic to the hole, and it's good. Nuggets take a 6-point lead in their opening. The Nuggets up 8 now, later in the third. Gordon in the corner for a 3. It's an 11-point game, still in the third. Nuggets up 14. Jokic, his 14th triple-double of the year. Nuggets go on to win it by 20. Nets have lost 8 straight. Meanwhile, Steve Nash before the game talking about James Harden and the trade deadline.
The trade deadline coming up Thursday. Have you had any, any further conversations with him about where you guys stand, or even where his mindset is?
No, I've talked to James. He wants to be here. He wants to be here long term as well. So I don't think anything's changed other than noise from the outside. James wants to be here. We're building with James, and we think we have the best chance to win with James. So, I don't think anything's changed on the inside, in our locker room, in our communication. It's just all the noise from the outside.
All right, and so the man you need to hear from is this man right here. No one will have a busier week leading up to the deadline than Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, you and I were talking about this on Saturday. James Harden sits out again last night. They've lost 8 straight games. How do we look at the James Harden of it all between now and Thursday?
Well, Greeny, start with this, and Ramona Shelburne and I reported this morning on ESPN.com. Daryl Morey called Sean Marks about a month ago, and kind of a perfunctory month out from the trade deadline call that GMs make. But before he hung up, he asked Sean Marks, "What about James?" And Sean Marks responded, well, James who? Because there are 2 Jameses on the Nets, Johnson and Harden. And Morey assured him it was James Harden, and Sean Marks responded, no. And so they have not spoken again, I'm told. We are 3 days from the trade deadline, and it remains to be seen whether Philly will try to re-engage Brooklyn on James Harden. But like Steve Nash said yesterday, the Nets are listening to James Harden. He's telling them he wants to be there, that he's committed. Now, you can look at it and perhaps see something less than that. They believe him on his injury, the hamstring he's sitting out with. But right now, listen, anything can happen trade deadline week. And when you've lost 8 games in a row, when a player like James Harden is maybe not inspiring the confidence, perhaps you are willing to listen to a massive offer from Philly. But right now, there's no indications that that's going to happen. And Philly has yet to call Brooklyn back. They may just wait till the offseason and pursue James Harden then, when he can either be a free agent, or they could then discuss a sign and trade deal because he has a year left on his deal that he could opt into.
To be clear, Daryl Morey is a person of interest, if you will, in all of this. A, because he has a long history with Harden. They were together in Houston for all those years. And B, because he has the Ben Simmons situation sitting there with him in Philadelphia. That's the other one we watch closely. As we begin this week, what is the latest with Simmons?
The Sixers will be engaged in conversations on Simmons this week, but they're no closer to a trade for him, and they want to wait out. Whether it's a James Harden, whether it's other star players who may become available after the season that aren't now, Philly has shown no indication that they're going to sell short on Ben Simmons and do a deal that they don't really love, and they have a willingness to take this into the offseason. But I do think they'll talk with teams this week, perhaps even Brooklyn, but it would take a lot more than Ben Simmons to get James Harden out of the Nets, if the Nets are even willing to listen.
When I was reading this piece from Adrian Wojnarowski and Ramona Shelburne, the thing that stood out to me the most in their reporting was that James Harden and his manager, they are looking for an agent to partner with, they reported. And the last time he did that, that was when he was navigating leaving Houston and he worked with Wasserman. So, Richard, do you see the Nets and Harden having a long-term partnership here?
I do. I think so. I think obviously with everything that's going on, I think the Kyrie situation, Kevin Durant's injury, there's just been a lot. It's been an unusual year, and then going into free agency, we've seen that happen with a ton of players, even marquee players. We were talking about it with Giannis. All these marquee players, when their name comes up, they're going to be mentioned everywhere. And so I'm not surprised that the Nets are like, dude, no, James is our guy. We're not going to, because even if you have a conversation and all of a sudden it seems like you're looking for something to do with James, so you're like, no, that's a non-starter. So I think Brooklyn is 100% committed to James, and it's just a matter of if James is going to be committed to them in this offseason.
Well, that's a big matter if James is going to be committed to them in this offseason. He didn't sign an extension. It's not a great sign that Daryl Morey is calling about James Harden, because he wouldn't call if he didn't think he had a shot. It's not a great sign that in the Woj and Ramona story, they say things like, well, the Nets are taking James at his word that his hamstring injury is a real injury and this and that. Like, that's not a great sign either. That said, there's just such a soap opera in Brooklyn. When those three play together, they are awesome and they fit well. So if I'm the Nets, I think, look, Kevin Durant's coming back after All-Star. Kyrie, we'll see if he can play home games or not. Like, we hope it takes care of itself. But long-term, it's never, ever been as murky to me as it is right now.
And you pointed out something really important, Malika. The last time the agency came up, when it came to his deal in Houston, trying to leave, like, people might say, oh, he must try to leave now, too, because he's looking for agents. That's not necessary, the case at all times, meaning maybe he just wants to make sure that this next deal is the best deal for him, not necessarily meaning, hey, I'm trying to leave. I think at the bare minimum, the Nets know that they're better with James Harden playing basketball for him than potentially risking, making him mad. Making him mad so much that now he's gone and you're not guaranteed another starter pair with Kyrie, who may or may not be available in KD.
Why shopping him? Basically shopping him. That's what he's saying. If you shop a guy and you even have that conversation, it's then all of a sudden you're like, well, why are you even talking about it if you're that committed?
Well, and I sat down with James Harden at the beginning of the season, and he said to me, look, I've never tested free agency before. That's something that's interesting. But he also said, winning cures everything. But those are at polar opposites for the Brooklyn Nets right now because they ended 2021. They were at the top of the East. And then, remember Kevin Durant, he got hurt in January. They were the 2nd seed then. But now, after an 8-game losing streak, they've fallen all the way to 7th place. And that would put them in the play-in tournament. So, Richard, you cover the Nets locally. What's the likelihood that they're going to end up in the play-in?
I think extremely low. To me, I think getting Kyrie back, there's obviously an adjustment period. James Harden also missed time over this stretch. They've been on the road this entire time. And then Kevin Durant, maybe the guy that at the time of his injury was probably the leading candidate. I think Joel Embiid has probably surpassed him. But KD was leading the league in scoring, was doing everything that you can imagine a player can do in the fourth quarter, was balling. And now all of a sudden he's out, they're on the road, things are going tough, and now they've had a little bit of a losing streak. I just think that the Nets will be in that 4 or 5 spot if they can get going, and I think that they don't fear anyone if they're at 100% health.
And let's be real, this is right now the worst of the worst case scenarios for the Brooklyn Nets. Because, if you're trying to find bright spots, Kyrie at least has been pretty consistent in putting up numbers, even if he's taking a lot of shots. Blake Griffin getting back to what we see, those double-double type of efforts. And Patty Mills, you can't say enough good things about Patty Mills. And so you hope that James's hamstring is better, and then KD comes back after All-Star. Kyrie is, finding some synergy. Fingers crossed that maybe there's an availability come down the stretch of the season. You never know. But right now, I think it's raining. It's really pouring in Brooklyn. But the reality is they could really turn this around so much so that they could be in a top 4 stand.
Well, and we're having this conversation, right, because Steve Nash said there's a high probability that we're going to be in a play-in spot when we are going into the All-Star break. That's where this is spurring from, Zach.
They're in the play-in spot right now.
Right.
There's a high probability right now with 100% probability. They're in the play-in spot. I admire your guys' optimism because I think this is closer to 50-50 than you guys are saying it is. First of all, the math sites, the projection sites has it as better than 50-50 that they're in the play-in. And look, they're 3 games out in the loss column now of 4 and 5. Like, they're not that close to 4 and 5. Toronto is 1 game ahead of them in 6. Toronto is going to try to upgrade at the trade deadline. They're not going anywhere. Boston's not going anywhere. And look, recent evidence suggests they can't beat anybody with 1 of the 3 available. They're struggling to beat anybody with 2 of the 3 available when the one that's not available is Kevin Durant. Still, if I had to predict, I predict they get out of the play-in and into the top 6 just because Durant is going to come back soon. Right. That would, in my view, that would inspire James Harden to say, okay, our team's getting back together. Let me amp up my effort. And it's just hard to see that team not making the top 6, but it's going to be tight.
They have too much talent. It's really hard to.
I have no idea. Steve Nash says, no, he's not getting traded. Do you buy him at his word? Behind every rumor, there is some truth to it, especially in the NBA. That is so true for the NBA because guess what? It just, James Harden is not happy, and he's clearly missing games because of a tight hamstring and whatnot. Kevin Durant is missing games with a strained MCL. Kyrie Irving's only available for road games, and right now the Nets are in the play-in tournament, which, I find it very funny that everybody's like, oh my God, they're in the play-in tournament, they're not dangerous anymore. Like, come on, man. Kevin Durant is injured. You guys know this, and you also know the fact that when he comes back, it's lights out. So for the media to say, oh my God, the Nets are no good anymore, like, come on. That's just silly to me. The Nets are so damn good with KD on the floor, and he's not on the floor. So you do the math. The second he comes back, it's going to be insane. But going back to the original thing, do you guys think that this is true? Steve Nash said, no, then they're not trading him. And Adrian Wojnarowski basically said last month, Daryl Morey calls up Sean Marks, the GM of Brooklyn Nets, and basically was like, hey, let's discuss a trade about James. And he goes, James who? He goes, James Harden. And the guy said no. That was about a month ago. Now they're on an 8-game losing streak. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm dumbfounded because Shams reported the fact that he might get traded. James Harden might get traded. Like, 76ers are expected to pursue a trade for James Harden. And now you got people saying, no, it's not going to happen. So it's very odd to me. But then again, this is the NBA. A lot of drama. It's like high school all over again. So we'll see. Me personally, it is Monday. It is about in the afternoon sometime, and I don't know the reason why I said that, because I don't know where anyone who's watching this is gonna be. So let's just call it Monday afternoon, and trade deadline is Thursday afternoon. So you basically have 3 days away. You are 72 hours away from making a huge splash, but if you already got people saying no, he's not getting traded, I don't know what to expect. Nets, unless they want to gamble with Kyrie Irving only playing part-time, I don't think this trade is getting done. You know what I mean? Like, I for surely thought this trade was 100% getting done, and all of a sudden I'm guessing the Nets either are using this as leverage, trying to get more pieces from Philadelphia, but I don't know. I really don't know. Tell me what you guys think. Is James Harden going to get traded in the next 72 hours? We'll wait and see. Jag Mangat for Jaggy Sports. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit the freaking like button and the freaking notifications button. And again, thank you very much for all the 200 supporters, 200 followers that subscribe to this channel. You won't be sorry. You're getting the best content. This is Jag from Jaggy Sports.